What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to talk a little bit about TBC Classic. So I recently got a little bit back into gold making in TBC Classic, and it was actually inspired by seeing, I think his name was Esquire. I know he's a streamer, and that's about it. I've seen him on Twitter a couple of times. He tweeted he'd reached gold cap in TBC Classic. And I really want to go for that, but I don't have time right now because I have too much stuff. But it got me thinking. What do you actually need to do to reach gold cap in TBC Classic? So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to sort of break that down into like, okay, how many items is this actually? How many do I need to sell? What markets can potentially get me there? What do I need to do outside of crafting or flipping? And we'll take a look at a potential like breakdown of how it could look. So that's going to be interesting, and I'll talk a little bit about my thoughts about how you can use different markets to potentially reach that elusive gold cap. Now, the gold cap in TBC is 214,000 gold. So that's a good chunk. That's a good chunk. For some context, I think I have about 3,000 gold on me on TBC right now. I didn't really play much after getting epic flying. I made some gold and had some fun during like the first 3-4 weeks of TBC Classic, and that's about what I played. That's a lot of gold. Now, if we're in a typical like 20% profit margin, usually it's a little bit higher in Classic, but that's still gonna mean more than 1 million gold in sales, which is obviously a lot of sales, an absolutely huge amount of sales. But it's certainly doable, as other people have proven. I think most people who have done this will probably have done it with some combination of, or rather with a heavy emphasis perhaps on farming, because it's such a it's just such a great method for a lot of different reasons. It's a very strong for TBC markets, or rather, it's really strong when you're trying to generate a lot of at least if you have a lot of time. Farming is really good because you're just making gold or making money pretty much out of thin air, which is really good. Yeah. Now, if we're looking at what I've made since TBC launched, I've made about 43,000 gold in sales. So obviously, like, not super far off, to be fair, honest. Not super far off. Of course, it's quite a while up to 1 million, but I do believe my profit margin has been a little bit higher than that. But it's still obviously a long way to go. But that's encouraging to me. Now, regardless of that, let's take a look at like how many items you'd need to sell. Well, obviously, if you're making about 100 gold per item in profit, you need to sell about 200 or 2,140 items, which is quite a lot because there aren't that many items that you can craft or reliably sell in TBC that's going to generate 100 gold in profit. If we're looking at 1 gold profit per item, then obviously you'd have to move 214,000 items, which is a lot. And if you're looking at some markets like material flipping, you're not even going to make 1 gold per item. So there's going to be just a huge number of items. That's absolutely, like, without a sliver of doubt, that's going to be a part of this. Like, you will have to sell a huge number of items. And that's going to take a while, but we can break that down. So, obviously, we want to prioritize items with as high as possible raw profit per item. That's always the best thing. You also care a little bit about volume, particularly if it doesn't take like an absolutely incredible amount of time to farm or craft the item that you want to sell in large volume, if possible. But items that move quickly and items that have a very high profit in terms of raw gold profit, that's obviously where you want to be. So let's look at some markets. So first up, we have gear. And crafted gear is one of the staples, absolute staples of gold making, particularly of going for gold cap, and it has been on retail for a long time. And the reason is simply put that good gear sells for a high profit premium. People are willing to pay a lot of money for gear, and they're willing to pay a lot of money for good gear because they only have to pay for that once and they keep the benefit forever. Now, sadly, there's some issues in TBC, or issues. You need a lot of primal nethers for a lot of the really high value BOEs, which means that you need to run heroics. And that's going to limit how much you can craft unless you're playing the game or unless you've already done a bunch of heroics on your main crafter. So for instance, if you have the Spell Strike set and you've done a ton of primal or a ton of heroics and you got a lot of primal nethers on that character, then that's definitely something you want to look into selling. But if you haven't, then you're stuck with recipes that don't require primal nethers, and there's not that many of those. There are some. The one we have here, Bracers of Havoc, been absolutely fantastic for me. As you can see here, over a period of 12 days, I sold, well, about 1 per day on average. I sold 10. I was probably not, I wasn't even religiously keeping these in stock. Like, this is a fantastic recipe, and you can buy it from the auction house as well, which just makes it absolutely fantastic. I'm sure there are others. I haven't researched like all of the crafting you can do in depth, because I don't have that many level 70 crafters. I just have one level 70, in fact. But we can take a look at, say, the Spell Strike set as well, right? And we can see that it's selling for about, well, 1,200 and 1,600. So if you can sell these, then you're definitely going to be really happy. I have no idea what the profit margin is on these. I have one of these recipes. I think I have the Spell Strike Hood recipe, but I have not learned it yet because I'm not 375 tailoring. So there's that. But this one's definitely something that needs to figure in the plans as well. If you can sell your nether crafting, or just like keeping these on the auction house. It's not going to sell often, but when it sells, that's going to be most likely 300 to 400 gold coming in, which is going to knock off quite a good chunk of the progress towards max here. So yeah, gear is definitely something you want to look into as much as possible, but there aren't that many. There are some previous recipes, but not a huge amount. So you want to cover as many professions as you can and get as many of any pre-bis or strong crafted pieces. They don't have to be pure bis, but if they're like a good option compared to, say, drops from heroics or whatever, that's going to be annoying to farm. People are always willing to pay to just instantly get a benefit, particularly on their alts, and we're now quite far into the TBC life cycle, which means that there's going to be a lot more alts and a lot more rich mains. So that's it for gear. Now next up, our good friends, they're over here in my inventory, the gems, jewel crafting. Now jewel crafting from TBC onwards is really one of the big ones, and I think that's going to be the case here as well. It's great. Particularly the living rubies sell for an absolute ton of gold, as you can see here. Well, obviously all this sales data is quite old, but even just looking at the ruined living ruby, it's still selling for about 120 gold, so pretty much the same as it was at launch. So that's great. You're probably making about 20, 30 gold on these, and then on the other colors you're making a lot less. Like the greens, for instance, I'm sure that they're barely selling for 10 or 7 gold. You're making like 2 gold on these. Not as profitable. But to really make money here, you have to prospect, so you just have to take the good with the bad. Average profit is probably going to be single digit per gem, but you can sell a lot of different gems. There's a lot of different colors. And if we look at my living rubies, my ruined living rubies, I sold 61 of these over a period of 20 days, where I have data from launch, and that's 6.1k gold. Total, probably about 20% profit-ish, 20-30% profit, so that's about 1,500 gold profit. And I could probably have gone a lot harder if I wanted to. So, and then you just add all of the other potential gems, like, say, you make sure that you get enough ore that you can keep a large number of all of the living rubies up on the auction house at the same time. Then you have 4 or 5 cuts that have almost the same level of potential as the living rubies, and then you're gonna be making some real gold with jewel crafting, some actual volume here. So yeah, jewel crafting I think is has to be a staple. It's one of the best volume markets. The profit per item isn't that great. It's a little time consuming since you have to prospect, and that's very annoying. But the fact that you have to prospect and that's very annoying is also going to keep out a lot of people and keep profit margins high, because otherwise why would you bother? The other high value or high volume market, I should say, is generally speaking consumables. Other consumables and they're not that great, at least not the alchemy ones. Of course, I've sold some destruction potions after I got the recipe, about 970 gold each. The real problem for me, the big problem for me, is that I do not have any masteries. And with the existence of specializations of transmute mastery and all that jazz, for alchemy, it means that generally speaking, for potions or flasks, a lot of your competition will have cheaper crafting costs than you, because they'll be crafting with the specialization and getting 20% extra. So unless you have that, it's going to be very hard to compete on both potions and flasks. You won't get many sales. I'm not getting many sales. I'm getting some sales. Using my regular overcutting approach, I'm getting some sales, but it's not a lot. And my crafter is level 60. I'm not sure I can be bothered leveling him in to crank and get the proper specialization. We'll see. I might, because I think that it's very good. Alchemy is very good. It's also quite time consuming, but it is very good. So we'll see. If you have a level 70 alchemist, then it's great. If it's not level 70, then you can just stick with transmutes. Transmutes, you don't need mastery to be profitable. The Earthstorm Diamond transmute, for instance, on my realm, that's about 30 gold profit per click. So that's 30 gold per day on average. That's pretty good. That's some free gold that's just gonna help you out. Now, next up we have flipping. And flipping is the perfect type of market or perfect type of gold making method for gold cap, as it's very time efficient in general. The biggest problem with flipping in TBC is that the big money in terms of like actual total profit is all going to come from items, from BOEs. And they're usually, it's a little hard to find the good deals. Of course, you can see I found quite a few, or I found a couple back in Classic. All of these epic sales are from Classic. And it's certainly possible to find deals right now as well, but it's relatively easy to price your BOEs correctly. So you won't be swimming in deals if you do BOE flipping. So if you're on my group, which doesn't even have all of the BOEs, I think, I'm sure we'll see that most of these are priced correctly, and there's very little opportunity to flip those for a profit. There will be some items that can potentially be flipped, such as this one. Yeah, right here, that's actually a pretty good deal. Might have to buy that. But it's not going to happen every day. Now, this is definitely a market you want to be in, and you want to search for deals, because if you find an underpriced item, that's going to be a lot of gold right there. And you'll be looking at items with a very high amount of raw gold profit potentially, and that's going to more quickly get you to the end goal of 214k. So definitely something to keep an eye on, but it's not going to be the main one. Now, lastly, or not lastly, but we have to talk a little about farming as well. I'm sure that Esquire was doing a lot of farming, because as I said, farming works, and it's going to help you out. It's going to help you bring in more free gold, because you're just exchanging your time for gold straight up, or your time for materials that you can then turn into gold straight up. Now, there's a ton of things you can do on the auction house and with professions in TBC, so I don't think you need to do farming. You can spend your time flipping old world materials. You can do old world classic shuffles. You can do TBC level shuffles. There are so many things you can spend your time on. But if you definitely supplementing with farming or just doing dailies, because there are some crafting things you'll be doing that are very, very slow. Potentially, like if you're doing tailoring, then you'll have a lot of time just crafting items, crafting bolts, all that stuff, where you can do something else on another account if you're lucky enough to have that. Of course, if you're not, then yeah, you're just stuck waiting for the slow stuff. But many of you will probably be doing dailies anyway. Maybe you're working on Augrila rep or Shatari Skyguard and getting some gold from that, and that is gonna have a contribution. It's gonna help out. Like if you do 2 to 3 dailies a day, that's gonna be another 30-40 gold per day. That's gonna stack up and really help you out long term. So that's also something that will supplement you and just keep you constantly growing. Now, lastly, I wanted to cover level 60 alts as well, because as I mentioned earlier, for alchemy, you have the transmute Earthstorm Diamond recipe that you can just very easily get from Cenarian Expedition rep. You can just turn in the unidentified plant parts that are very cheap, and then you'll get enough rep to get the recipe at level 60. You can also learn tailoring, get that to max, or 350, and get your tailoring specialization, because that's not required level higher than 60. Now, if you want to do like Spellcloth, you may have to have someone help you get to Everstorm, or help you get to Netherstorm and Area 52, and potentially help you do the quest. But that's not, maybe you have a friend in your guild that's willing to do that. And then you can just log in every day, do your daily cooldowns. Every 4th day, you do your tailoring cooldown, and you're probably generating 40-50 gold per alt per day on any level 60 alt where you go through the effort of setting this up. And that's gonna help out really well. That's gonna really help out. It's sort of like with farming. It's just gonna add up on a little bit of gold per day, and just make sure that you're always pointing in the right direction. So, lastly, we're going to take a look at a potential breakdown. If you take all of this information that I just shared and set this up in a spreadsheet to show you like how many items we'll have to sell, what's a potentially realistic breakdown of this across various markets? That's what we'll take a look at. So let's jump in. So, this setup is based on my setup of professions and what I think I can do, and what I'm hoping to do. So I'm not sure about the breakdown. I just sort of took this out of thin air. So we want to make about 70,000 gold profit from gems alone. I'm guesstimating an average profit of about 5 per gem, which means I'd need to sell 14,000 gems. That's a lot of gems. It's a lot of gems. Not sure how realistic this is, or what sort of time frame you'd be looking at. Maybe you can even pump this number up a little bit if you have the right cuts. Who knows? But that's what it is, 14,000 gems in total. Absolutely huge. Obviously, I think this was just going to assume the rare gems. I'm not sure what I'd do with the uncommons, if I can do anything profitable with them or not. So we'll see. Next up, we have crafted gear. Right now, it's pretty much only Bracers of Havoc I have. So if I wanted to do this, I definitely need to get a couple of more. And right now the average profit of a Bracers of Havoc is higher than this. It's about 100 gold, which would mean I'd only need to sell 200 of them, which I'm pretty sure I could do. Like selling 200 Bracers of Havoc, not sure if that would be easier or harder than selling 14,000 gems, but it would take a little while. But it's a very fast selling recipe, very, very good one. Next up, materials. I wanted to get 50,000 gold from flipping materials. At an average profit of 50 silver per item, that's 100,000 materials sold in total. But there are so many materials to sell. I have sold already thousands of vision dust. There's just a huge number of volume materials from Classic and from TBC. And there's a good number of TBC materials where you can get this number up quite a lot higher than 0.5. So it might be possible to drive this up to as high as 1.5 gold per, depending on what deals and what items you can find, essentially. So yeah. Cooking. I wanted to sell some cooking as well. I'm not sure if 10k. That would be 20,000 foods. I think they're about 50 silver. The last time I checked, at least, that's typically where they've been lying. We're just going to take a while. So this might be a little unrealistically high, but who knows. Item enhancements. We're talking about stuff like spell thread, other types of enchantments. They're about 20 profit each. 20 gold profit right now. Need to sell 1,000, so that's a lot of spell thread. I have just one of the recipes right now. I can easily get the other one by just cranking through the rep. Actually, that reminds me, rep items, they're also great to flip, and they're also in this category. They're like the Sun Fury Signets, all that jazz, very good flips. Then we want to get about 10,000 gold from dailies. That's 800 dailies / quests. Yeah, that's gonna help out. It's a decent chunk of gold. Then we say we want 40 gold total from daily cooldowns, or 40 gold per day, 200 days. So I'm guessing we're trying to do this in 200 days if that's the case. Otherwise, if we'd be spending longer, then we'd be making more gold here and we'd need less from all of the other stuff. Lastly, I wanted to just say that for the rest, we'll just be doing random farming, shuffles, anything that's about 100 gold per hour, and we need to spend 260 hours. So if you're doing this over 200 days, then this is actually a little bit more than 100 or an hour per day on gold making that's not related to any of this. So yeah, we'd probably need to spend more than 200 days, or I would, unless you could dedicate a significant portion of your day, or like 4 or 5, 6 plus hours per day dedicated to just gold making. But that's how our breakdown could look. This would give us 214k, the gold cap. It's a lot of items, as you can see. We're talking about 136k items in total. That's quite a lot, but that's really what you need to do. There's no substitute. Obviously, the higher you can get like the raw gold number, the easier it is in some fashion, because that's just gold that you don't really have to actually extract from other players. It's gold that you're creating out of thin air. But still, it's still a lot of effort. But yeah, I really, really, really want to go for this. But I'm already doing my road to 100 million on retail and the NA 0 to Hero challenge. So we'll have to finish at least one of those before going. Obviously, the NA challenge, it's closer, so probably going to have to force myself to go record another video now that we can finally craft there. But yeah, those are my thoughts on TBC gold making. So if you're playing TBC right now, share with me what your favorite gold making methods are. Are you making gold with anything particularly cool? There are some tricks I know about that I haven't done like much of yet. Like I know that there's a lot of people still doing the logistics daily quests or the logistics quests in Silithus. So I know that that's something you can make. You can make good gold selling the items needed for that. Probably some other things I don't know about. So so we'll see. There are probably tricks to discover to help bring up the profit number, the average profit number, so I don't have to sell as many items. So yeah, I really I hope I can start doing this. I need to start doing it soon if I'm going to go for it, because otherwise obviously TBC Classic will be over. So hopefully I can get into this in the not too distant future, and we'll have some fun TBC Classic challenges for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and a comment down below, and we'll see you on the next video. Goodbye guys.